The morning sun cast long shadows across Westminster Abbey as millions of eyes around the world focused on two figures walking hand in hand toward their destiny. What they were about to witness wasn't just another royal ceremony, it was the dawn of a new era that would redefine the British monarchy forever. In a world where tradition meets modernity, where ancient crowns meet contemporary hearts, William and Catherine were about to prove that fairy tales don't just exist in storybooks. Their journey from university sweethearts to the most powerful couple in Britain had captivated the globe. But nothing could prepare the crowd, or the world, for what was about to unfold. As the Abbey bells began to chime, a collective breath was held across the Commonwealth. This wasn't just about two people saying "I do" to each other. This was about them saying "I do" to an entire nation, to centuries of history, and to a future that would be unlike anything the royal family had ever seen. The crowd gathered outside didn't just come to witness a wedding or a coronation. They came to witness history in the making, to see the moment when everything they thought they knew about royalty would be turned upside down. Little did they know, William and Catherine were about to leave them absolutely speechless. The streets of London had never seen anything quite like this before. As dawn broke on what would become one of the most significant days in modern British history, thousands upon thousands of people were already lining the ceremonial route. Some had been camping out for days, their sleeping bags and folding chairs creating a colourful ribbon of anticipation along the ancient cobblestones. The air buzzed with excitement so thick you could almost touch it. Catherine Middleton stood before the mirror in her private suite, her hands trembling slightly as she touched the delicate lace of her wedding dress. The gown, crafted by Sarah Burton for Alexander McQueen, represented more than just fashion. It was a bridge between the old world and the new. Every stitch had been carefully planned, every detail meticulously chosen to honor tradition while embracing the woman she had become. The dress featured intricate lace applique flowers, each one hand-cut from Chantilly and Alençon lace, creating a garden of blooms that would soon walk down the aisle of Westminster Abbey. Her sister Pippa moved quietly around the room, making final adjustments and offering gentle words of encouragement. The weight of the moment wasn't lost on either of them. Catherine wasn't just getting married. She was stepping into a role that would define the rest of her life and potentially change the course of the British monarchy forever. The girl who had grown up in Berkshire, whose parents had built their party supply business from the ground up, was about to become a princess. Meanwhile, across London, Prince William was experiencing his own moments of reflection. Dressed in the scarlet tunic of the Irish Guards, he stood tall and composed, that those closest to him could see the emotion in his eyes. This wasn't just any wedding day for him, either. He was marrying the woman he loved, yes, but he was also making a promise to his country, to his grandmother, the Queen, and to his late mother's memory. Diana's engagement ring now adorned Catherine's finger, creating a beautiful connection between past and present. The prince had chosen his military uniform carefully. As Colonel of the Irish Guards, the red tunic with its distinctive blue collar and ornate gold braiding represented his commitment to service, a value that would define his reign as king. His younger brother Harry stood beside him as best man, their bond evident in the small glances and reassuring nods they shared. Harry had been William's anchor through all the pressures of royal life, and today was no different. Outside Westminster Abbey, the crowd had grown to unprecedented numbers. People from all walks of life had come together, united by their excitement for what many were calling the wedding of the century. Street vendors sold commemorative flags and mugs, while television crews from around the world captured every moment. The atmosphere was festive, almost carnival-like, but underneath ran a current of genuine affection for the couple. Among the crowd was Margaret Thompson, a 78-year-old grandmother from Yorkshire who had taken the overnight bus to London. She clutched a small Union Jack flag and wore a fascinator she had made specially for the occasion. "I've watched William grow up," she told anyone who would listen. "From that shy little boy walking behind his mother's coffin to this fine young man today. Catherine is perfect for him, absolutely perfect." Her sentiment was echoed throughout the crowd. This wasn't just about royal pomp and ceremony. People genuinely believed in this couple's love story. They had watched William and Catherine's relationship develop over nearly a decade, through university days at St. Andrews, through brief separations and joyful reunions, through the gradual integration of Catherine into royal life. This felt real, authentic, and hopeful in a way that many royal relationships hadn't in recent memory. Inside the Abbey, guests were taking their seats with the kind of careful precision that only comes with centuries of royal protocol. The guest list read like a who's who of global leadership and celebrity, but the front rows were reserved for family. Queen Elizabeth II, resplendent in primrose yellow, sat with quiet dignity, her handbag placed just so on her lap. This was her grandson's day, and despite decades of public appearances, she seemed genuinely moved by the significance of the moment. Prince Charles, soon to be the father-in-law to a commoner, appeared relaxed and happy. His wife Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, had developed a warm relationship with Catherine over the years, and her genuine smile showed her pleasure at welcoming a new daughter-in-law. The royal family's acceptance of Catherine had been gradual but complete, and today felt like a celebration of that integration. The organ music began to swell, and a hush fell over the abbey. This was it, the moment millions had been waiting for. The great doors opened, and Catherine appeared with her father Michael Middleton. The collective gasp from the congregation was audible. She was breathtaking, but more than that, she was composed, graceful, and radiant with happiness. The lace sleeves of her dress caught the light streaming through the abbey's ancient windows, and the train flowed behind her like liquid silk. As she walked down the aisle, Catherine's eyes found William's, and for a moment, the centuries of history surrounding them seemed to fade away. This was simply a woman walking toward the man she loved, ready to promise him forever. William's face broke into a smile that was captured by cameras around the world and would become one of the most iconic images of the day. The service itself was a masterful blend of tradition and personal touches. The couple had chosen readings and music that spoke to their own relationship, while honoring the sacred setting and the solemnity of the occasion. When William spoke his vows, his voice was clear and strong, carrying easily through the abbey. Catherine's responses were equally confident, her years of preparation for this moment evident in her poise, but it was the small, intimate moments that truly captured hearts. When William struggled briefly with placing the ring on Catherine's finger, she gave him an encouraging smile that reminded everyone watching that beneath all the pageantry, this was a love story. When they knelt together for prayers, their heads bowed in unison. It was impossible not to be moved by their obvious devotion to each other and to the promises they were making. The Archbishop of Canterbury's words carried special weight as he spoke about the nature of marriage and the unique challenges this particular couple would face. Marriage is a way of life made holy by God and blessed by the presence of our Lord Jesus Christ with those celebrating a wedding at Cana in Galilee, he intoned, his words echoing through the abbey and across the airwaves to millions of listeners worldwide. As the ceremony drew toward its conclusion, the energy in both the abbey and the streets outside began to build toward the moment everyone was waiting for, the kiss. The balcony appearance. The beginning of their new life together as husband and wife, as Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, as the future King and Queen of England. When the final hymn ended and William and Catherine turned to walk back down the aisle as a married couple, the joy on their faces was unmistakable. They moved with a new confidence, a new unity that hadn't been there an hour before. The congregation rose as one, and the organ thundered, the recessional as the newly married couple made their way toward the doors of the abbey and their waiting carriage. Outside, the crowd's cheers reached a crescendo that could be heard for miles. People were crying, laughing, waving flags, and calling out congratulations. The atmosphere was pure celebration, pure joy, and pure hope for what this new chapter in royal history would bring. As William and Catherine emerged from the abbey, the sun broke through the clouds as if orchestrated by nature itself, bathing them in golden light that seemed to promise a bright future ahead. The Golden State Landau carriage rolled through the streets of London with a rhythm that seemed to match the heartbeat of the city itself. William and Catherine sat side by side, their hands intertwined, as wave after wave of cheers washed over them from the crowds lining the route. The newly married Duke and Duchess of Cambridge were experiencing something that no amount of preparation could have truly readied them for, the overwhelming outpouring of love and hope from their future subjects. Catherine's wedding dress had been carefully arranged in the carriage to prevent wrinkles, but her attention was entirely focused on the sea of faces surrounding them. Children held up handmade signs, elderly couples waved with tears in their eyes, and young people cheered with an enthusiasm that spoke to the couple's unique ability to bridge generational gaps. This wasn't just the formal acknowledgement of a royal marriage, it was a celebration of everything this union represented for the future of the monarchy. As they rounded the corner onto the mall, the sight that greeted them was beyond anything they had imagined. The broad avenue was packed from side to side with people as far as the eye could see. Union Jack flags created a canopy of red, white, and blue that rippled in the gentle breeze, while the sound of God Save the Queen being sung spontaneously by thousands of voices created a moment of pure British pride that would be remembered for generations. William squeezed Catherine's hand and leaned close to speak to her over the noise of the crowd. Whatever he said made her laugh, a moment of private joy shared between them that photographers captured and would later describe as one of the most human moments of the entire day. Here were two people thrust into the spotlight of history, finding comfort and happiness in each other amidst the overwhelming magnitude of the occasion. The carriage procession was more than just a journey from Westminster Abbey to Buckingham Palace. It was a tour through the heart of British identity. As they passed landmarks that had witnessed centuries of royal history, Whitehall, Horse Guards Parade, St. James's Palace, William and Catherine were literally tracing the footsteps of monarchs who had come before them. Yet there was something distinctly modern about their passage, something that spoke to a new era of accessibility and relatability in the royal family. Street parties had erupted spontaneously along the route. Neighbours who hadn't spoken in years were sharing champagne and stories about where they had been during other great royal occasions. Children who had been born in the digital age were experiencing for the first time the communal joy that comes from being part of a shared national moment. The economic challenges facing Britain seemed forgotten for these precious hours as the country united in celebration. Back at Westminster Abbey, guests were making their way to various receptions and gatherings, but the conversation was dominated by what they had just witnessed. Foreign dignitaries spoke of being moved by the sincerity of the ceremony, while British politicians from across party lines agreed that this had been exactly what the country needed. The royal family's approval ratings, which had fluctuated over the years through various controversies, were about to reach heights not seen since the Queen's Silver Jubilee. The international media coverage was unprecedented in its scope and positivity. CNN's royal correspondent described it as a masterclass in modern monarchy, while the BBC's coverage reached a global audience of over 2 billion people. Social media, still relatively new as a force in major events, exploded with messages of congratulations and admiration from ordinary people around the world who felt somehow connected to this love story. As the carriage approached Buckingham Palace, both William and Catherine could see the crowds gathered at the palace gates and stretching down the Mall. The Victoria Memorial was completely surrounded by people, many of whom had been waiting since before dawn for this moment. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation for what everyone knew was coming next, the traditional balcony appearance where the couple would make their first public appearance as husband and wife. Inside the palace, staff members who had served the royal family for decades were experiencing their own emotional moments. These were people who had watched William grow up, who had seen him struggle through his mother's death and his coming of age in the public eye. Today felt like a vindication of all the hopes they had held for him. Proof that he had found not just love, but a partner who would strengthen him and the institution he would one day lead. The wedding breakfast was an intimate affair compared to the public spectacle of the ceremony and procession. Close family and friends gathered in the palace's staterooms, where the formal portraits would be taken and the first speeches as a married couple would be shared. Prince Harry's best man speech, by all accounts, was both hilarious and touching, managing to embarrass his brother while also expressing his genuine happiness for the couple. Queen Elizabeth II's speech was particularly significant. Those present would later describe it as one of her most personal and warm addresses, speaking not just as a sovereign welcoming a new member to the royal family, but as a grandmother expressing her joy at William's happiness. Her acceptance of Catherine had been complete and public, sending a clear message about the future direction of the monarchy. But the private moments, beautiful as they were, could not overshadow the public anticipation building outside. The crowds at the palace gates had been growing steadily larger throughout the afternoon, and their chants of, "We want William! We want Catherine!" were growing more insistent. The traditional balcony appearance was not just expected, it was demanded by a public that felt invested in this fairy tale and wanted their moment of connection with their future king and queen. As the time approached for the balcony appearance, Catherine underwent a quick touch-up of her hair and makeup, though she hardly needed it. The joy of the day had given her a glow that no cosmetics could improve upon. William, meanwhile, was receiving last-minute briefings from palace staff about the timing and protocol for what would be one of the most photographed moments in royal history. The balcony at Buckingham Palace has been the stage for some of the most iconic moments in British royal history. It was where the royal family appeared during the Blitz to show their solidarity with Londoners under attack, where the Queen Mother waved to crowds celebrating the end of World War II, and where countless royal couples had shared their first public kisses as married couples. Now it would be William and Catherine's turn to add their moment to this incredible legacy. As they prepared to step out onto the balcony, both could hear the roar of the crowd outside. The sound was unlike anything either had experienced before, not just loud, but filled with such genuine warmth and excitement that it was impossible not to be moved. Palace staff estimated that over 1 million people had lined the streets of London that day, making it one of the largest public gatherings in the city's history. The doors to the balcony opened, and as William and Catherine stepped into view, The sound that rose from the crowd below was deafening. A sea of faces looked up at them, cameras flashed like lightning, and the cheers seemed to shake the very foundations of the palace. Catherine waved with the perfect technique she had been taught, while William's military training showed in his confident bearing. But the crowd wasn't satisfied with just seeing them. They wanted the kiss. The traditional balcony kiss that would seal not just their marriage but their acceptance by the British people as their future monarchs. The chants grew more organized, more insistent. Kiss! 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 Until it became a rhythmic demand that could not be ignored. William and Catherine looked at each other, sharing a moment of private communication that spoke to their deep connection. This was their moment, their choice, but it was also their first official act as a married couple serving the British people. When William leaned in and their lips met in that famous kiss, the roar from the crowd below was so loud it could be heard across London. The kiss itself was brief, almost modest, but it was perfect for the moment and the couple. It spoke of love, of commitment, and of a partnership that would define the future of the British monarchy. When they separated and waved again to the crowd, both were beaming with happiness that was impossible to fake or manufacture. As they finally stepped back from the balcony, both William and Catherine knew that their lives had changed forever. They were no longer just William Wales and Catherine Middleton. They were the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, future King and Queen of England, and the hopes and dreams of millions of people around the world rested on their shoulders. The overwhelming support they had received that day would sustain them through the challenges ahead, but it also represented a trust that they would spend the rest of their lives working to honour. The evening reception at Buckingham Palace was a study in contrasts, intimate yet grand, traditional yet refreshingly modern. As the sun began to set over London, casting a golden glow through the palace's massive windows, 300 of the couple's closest friends and family members gathered in the throne room for what would become legendary as one of the most joyful celebrations in recent royal history. Catherine had changed from her wedding gown into a second dress designed by Sarah Burton, a strapless white satin creation with a diamond-adorned belt that sparkled as she moved. The change represented more than just a practical decision. It symbolized her transition from bride to duchess, from the formal ceremony to the personal celebration. William had swapped his military uniform for white tie and tails, looking every inch the future king while maintaining the relaxed demeanor that had endeared him to the public throughout the day. The guest list for the evening reception read like a carefully curated blend of old and new Britain. Alongside foreign royalty and political leaders sat William's university friends, Catherine's school companions, and family members who had watched their relationship develop over the years. The seating arrangement, overseen personally by the Queen, reflected a deliberate effort to break down traditional hierarchies and create an atmosphere where genuine connections could flourish. Prince Harry's evening speech was the highlight of the reception, a masterpiece of brotherly affection, wrapped in gentle teasing that had the entire room alternately laughing and wiping away tears. He spoke of watching William find true love, of Catherine's seamless integration into their family, and of his excitement about becoming an uncle to their future children. His words captured perfectly the sense that this wedding was not just the union of two people, but the strengthening of bonds that would sustain the royal family for generations to come. The wedding cake, a magnificent 8-tier creation decorated with sugar flowers and intricate piping, stood as a centerpiece that drew admiring crowds throughout the evening. When William and Catherine cut the cake together, using William's ceremonial sword in a nod to military tradition, the photographer captured a moment of pure joy as Catherine laughed at something William whispered in her ear. These candid moments, glimpses of the real couple beneath the royal protocol, would become treasured memories for all who witnessed them. Dancing began as the evening progressed, with the couple's first dance being a closely guarded secret that surprised even their families. Instead of a traditional waltz, they had chosen a contemporary song that reflected their generation and their genuine partnership. As they moved together across the dance floor, other couples gradually joined them, creating a scene that felt more like a celebration among friends than a formal royal function. The Queen, known for her early bedtimes, stayed later than anyone expected, clearly enjoying the happiness that surrounded her grandson and his new wife. She was observed having animated conversations with the Middleton family, and palace insiders later revealed that she had expressed particular delight in Michael Middleton's easy humor and Carol Middleton's genuine warmth. The integration of the two families was proceeding better than even the most optimistic royal watchers had predicted. Outside the palace, London was still celebrating. Impromptu street parties continued well into the night, with pubs staying open late, and people from all walks of life sharing in the collective joy of the day. The economic impact of the wedding was already being calculated in the hundreds of millions of pounds, but the emotional impact was immeasurable. For the first time in years, Britain felt united in optimism about its future. The international reaction was equally positive. Messages of congratulation poured in from world leaders, celebrities, and ordinary citizens from dozens of countries. Social media was flooded with images and videos from the day, creating a global conversation about love, tradition, and hope that transcended political and cultural boundaries. The wedding had achieved something remarkable. It had made the British royal family relevant and beloved to a new generation worldwide. As the evening drew to a close, William and Catherine made their rounds, personally thanking each guest for sharing their special day. Their genuine warmth and obvious happiness left lasting impressions on everyone present. These were not people going through the motions of royal duty. These were two individuals who truly appreciated the love and support they had received. The couple's departure from the palace was kept private, but word leaked that they would be spending their first night as a married couple at a location within the palace grounds before departing the next day for a secret honeymoon location. The decision to remain at the palace showed their understanding that this day belonged not just to them, but to the nation that had embraced them so completely. The media coverage of the wedding continued through the night and into the following days, with newspapers dedicating entire special editions to every aspect of the celebration. Fashion experts analysed Catherine's dress choices, historians placed the ceremony in the context of royal wedding traditions, and social commentators discussed what the couple's obvious popularity meant for the future of the monarchy. The impact on the royal family's reputation was immediate and profound. Public opinion polls showed approval ratings for the monarchy reaching heights not seen in decades, with particular enthusiasm among younger demographics who had previously shown little interest in royal affairs. William and Catherine had achieved something that many thought impossible. They had made the ancient institution of monarchy feel fresh, relevant, and hopeful. In the days that followed, as the immediate excitement of the wedding began to settle, the true significance of what had occurred began to emerge. This had been more than just a spectacular celebration. It had been a passing of the torch to a new generation of royals who understood both the weight of tradition and the need for evolution. William and Catherine had shown that it was possible to honour the past while embracing the future, to maintain dignity while remaining accessible, and to serve their country while staying true to themselves. The wedding had also marked a turning point in how the royal family engaged with the public. The level of openness, the genuine emotions displayed, and the clear love between the couple had created a new template for royal behaviour. Future generations would look back on this day as the moment when the monarchy began its successful transition into the 21st century. The legacy of that April day would extend far beyond the immediate celebrations. It would influence how royal weddings were conducted, how the family interacted with the media, and how they balanced public duty with private happiness. Most importantly, it would serve as the foundation for William and Catherine's future reign, providing them with a reservoir of public goodwill and affection that would sustain them through the inevitable challenges ahead. As London finally quieted in the early hours of the morning after the wedding, with clean-up crews beginning to clear the decorations and barriers from the ceremonial route, there was a sense that something significant had been accomplished. The country had come together in celebration, the monarchy had been renewed and strengthened, and two people in love had begun their journey as the future leaders of the Commonwealth. The crowds had indeed been left in awe, not just by the pageantry and spectacle, but by the genuine love and commitment they had witnessed. William and Catherine had made their debut as future king and queen, not through proclamation or ceremony alone, but through their obvious dedication to each other and to the people they would one day serve. In doing so, they had written the first chapter of what promised to be a remarkable story of modern monarchy, one that would continue to unfold for decades to come.